This is Moe Nawaz and Ben Gay here. We are about to embark on the Think and Grow Rich book in a format that you can apply. So this is going to be a webinar stroke podcast and possibly at a future date, a written book. So this is really looking at the Think and Grow Rich book itself and how it can be applied in the everyday life in today's world, in today's times, compared to when it was written back in 1923 by Dr. Napoleon Hill. The other thing that myself and Ben are going to be doing towards the end of this course is once we've got through all the chapters over the coming months, and the people that follow the entire Think and Grow Rich book applied, concepts that myself and Ben will be sharing with you, we will then pick 12 people from around the world who we will bring into a mentorship program absolutely free of charge. And this will be people that we will select from around the world, as I say. So there could be people from Africa, people from Afghanistan, people from poor countries as well as the West, and in America as well. Excuse me. So no one can be left out with the understanding, thinking that, well, you know, it's okay for you guys, you're over in the West, you're in America, you're over in Europe. So it's far easier for you to accumulate wealth than what it is for somebody in a third world country. So we're going to give opportunities to help people in the third world countries as well. So, you know, here we go. A lot of this hasn't been rehearsed. So a lot of this is going to come off the fly from myself and from Ben. And the best gold nuggets you're going to get from Ben is going to be on the fly rather than rehearsed and put together as such. So let me tell you a little bit about Ben. Ben served his time under Napoleon Hill. In fact, Napoleon Hill worked for Ben when Ben was in his 25 or 26, and Napoleon Hill was in his 70s, I understand.
84.
Sorry?
The day we met, I was 25, he was 84.
84, there you go. And he mentored Ben for a period of 2 years of the company, which Ben will go into more details with you in a bit. In addition to that, Ben has also written 3 books called The Closers. And this is about, like, you know, most people are very good at starting a conversation, getting the conversation going. But when it comes down to asking for the money to close the deal, that's the hard bit. And that's how I, you know, came across Ben. One of my mentors, Don Kennedy, kept going on about the closers and about Ben Gay. Well, I ended up getting the book called The Closer. As I explained to Ben, I read it and it was nothing to do with sales. And I thought, I've got the wrong book here. And then I went and got the correct book and went through the first book, second book, and third book. And I was really, really, you know, open-minded. And as the Closers, Volume 1. There's 3 of those to get through. You can get them in audio format or anything else that you want, as well as in written format. So the first bit of the Think and Grow Rich applied is desire. So how would you define desire, Ben, in your opinion, for people?
Well, you can get out a dictionary and read the technical definition of desire, or any other word, come to think of it. But desire, having worked closely with Dr. Hill, he and I had to sort of develop our own vocabulary. When he said something, I tried to make sure I knew what he meant by that, and vice versa. And desire, as I understood it in working with him, was obviously what you want in your life, psychologically, financially, personally, etc. But we came down to a term of it's what you wake up in the morning thinking about, wishing you had. Something that pulls you forward, not somebody else pushing you, but something that pulls you towards a self-inflicted, for lack of a better word, a self-inflicted goal. Somebody else can say you ought to do this, you ought to do this, and so on, and you may or may not agree. But when something sinks within you, into your soul, where that's what you really, really want, that's desire, and it will pull you. One of the ways I've used to describe it to people is, people say they desire a car. Well, there's the car, it has a price, etc. That's wonderful. But it's sort of hard to visualize the desire for a car. But picture the first time that you fell in love. If you're a man with a woman, perhaps. If you're a woman, perhaps with a man. Uh, and you wake up in the morning thinking about them, figuring out a way to get closer to them, figuring out a way, and it can be almost all consuming if you're in love. When you get that feeling about the business you want to start, or the goal you want to reach, or the position in your profession you want to reach, that's desire, and it's pulling you, not pushing you.
Excellent way of describing that. Desire, you have to have that burning desire to want something that you want to pursue. I always say to people, the doctors nowadays for the last 10-15 years have been telling everybody to quit smoking, and they've come up with all these nicotine patches which they can put on to resist the temptation of smoking. But unless you have that desire, that burning desire inside of you to quit, no matter how many patches you put on, how many times a day you put those patches on, they're not going to have any effect. So without that deeper desire, first wanting to achieve something or wanting something desperate enough on its own, nothing is going to happen. So if you don't have that desire, don't have that inclination that's strong enough, you're not likely to get it. If it's just a whimsy, I'd like to have that, that's not necessarily a desire.
Hitchhiking on your cigarette analogy, I used to be a 3-pack a day smoker. And I'm always quick to say, of course, a lot of them were just sitting in the ashtray burning up. I wasn't doing this through 3 packs, but 3 packs a day, however you figure it, disappeared every day. And I knew all the logical reasons, probably wasn't good for me. I grew up in the early generation where doctors recommended cool cigarettes and singers recommended Pall Mall or Pall Mall, however you pronounce it. And it was sold as a sophisticated device, and you look better and you look sharper and so on. And then the people I admired in the movies and so on, they were all smoking. So I got that put in me, and the medical thing didn't really resonate for a while. I knew I ought to quit and made a few half-hearted attempts. But cigarette smoking is like heroin. Heroin, you get one hit, I'm told. I haven't ever had heroin. But with a cigarette, you get like 10 hits, and they're drug doses. 10 off a cigarette, and there's 20 cigarettes, I think, in a pack, as best I recall. So I was getting, 400 times 3, 1,200. My math may be fuzzy, but 1,200 hits a day. And you wake up in the morning, turn over, maybe turn on the light beside your bed and reach for your cigarette. I'd have a cigarette going before I had coffee, before I did anything else. So how did I stop? I used to video every presentation I gave, and then I would come back to the office, go up to the training room and watch the video to see how I did and what I looked like and so on. Well, back in those days, I wore only tailor-made black suits, 3-piece suits. And this is in the days where every participant or every other participant had an ashtray in front of them on the table, and a glass of water, 2 or 3 on the table, and a pitcher of water, and then a glass to drink from. That was automatic. We expected you to want water and smoke. Most people did. And if it were, I would never smoke during a 1-hour keynote, but if it was an all-day seminar, I smoked while I was teaching. Light up a cigarette, wander around, thought I looked good. So one day I come back from New York, and go up to the training room with my little video cassette, plug it in, and I start watching me talking to a group. And I did fine, except I was amazed at how much time I spent brushing ashes off of my black suit and trying to get smoke out of my eyes and figure out a way to hold the cigarette while picking up something I needed, which left it hanging from my mouth several times, numerous times. And I'm sitting there in the training room looking at myself, and I said, "You look like an idiot." I mean, it's terribly distracting. You look like someone not smart enough to know this isn't healthy. You're not showing respect to the audience. All this was going through my mind when I was supposed to be listening to the words I was saying. And I felt myself reach up to my pocket where the ever-present pack of cigarettes was, take it out, crunch it up, and throw it in a trash can up against the wall. So what finally got me was ego, appearance, the image I wanted to project, and that didn't include smoking. So I went from 3 packs a day to 0, just watching myself on tape. It may not be a realistic example for everybody, but if you happen to do anything that is videotapable, do it while you're smoking and see what others see when they look at you. I saw a study once that, I don't know if it's true or not, but I sort of get the gist of it. When someone looks at you in this day and age and you're smoking, their view of you and your IQ drops 60%. They think perhaps you're an idiot. And you don't need that when you're negotiating a business deal or trying to make a sale or what have you. And for those of you, so I don't want to turn this into an anti-smoking thing, it's desire, but and when you're smoking, it gets on you. It gets on your clothes, it gets in your hair. And if I ever shake, currently because of the COVID thing, we're not shaking hands much, but if I shook someone's hand and they were a smoker, out of habit, pretty quick, my hands up near my face, if somebody go, "Oh, a smoker got me," because he wasn't smoking when I met him, but he had been smoking. He thought he'd gotten away with it, but he smelled like an old ashtray, and you don't want to do that in business. So there's a whole lot of reasons just to reverse that desire. And I play tricks on myself. Video and image. I call it the fourth wall perspective. When you're in a play, there's the stage right, stage left, and there's the back wall of the set. But the fourth wall perspective is where the audience sits. So in selling situations, negotiating situations, even in some social situations, I withdraw. 2 people are standing here, I withdraw, and I go to the fourth wall. And I look at it as somebody else would look at it and see if that's the way I want to appear, act, conduct myself, and have people judge me.
Sorry about that. I just shut the door.
Not a problem.
Right. Okay. So desire is the first thing that you need to write down exactly what it is that you really desire. So if let's assume that this Think and Grow Rich Applied is going to be rolled out over a period of the next 6 months or 12 months, what do you want at the end of that period? What is your desire? Is it to purchase a house, find a partner for yourself, find a job for yourself, or is it a monetary value? In most cases, not in all cases, most of this is tied back in some form of monetary value. If you're looking to acquire a car, you're looking to buy a house, you're looking for the status to get a job, it comes back in some form or other to a financial figure. So what is the actual amount that that you look to desire to have by a given end of a period, say 12 months, 6 months, 5 years, 3 years? What is that figure? Write down that amount and just put that figure down. That's the exact amount that you would like to achieve within that period of time. Now, how would you describe, Ben, the desire and the monetary value, attaching the monetary value to that desired goal?
Well, I think monetary is a great example. It's easy for people to picture, but understand that uh, Mr. or Mrs. or Ms. Viewer, yours may not be monetary. We're just using it as an example of an easier way to measure it. Uh, Dr. Hill asked me once early in our relationship, what exactly do you want to achieve? I said, well, I want to be rich. By some people's definition, I already was rich, but not by my definition and not by what I knew was possible. And he said, well, what do you mean rich? I said, rich. He said, no, I don't know. And if you want to achieve that, you must make it a specific number. What do you want to make? What do you want to net, et cetera? Exactly. And I said, okay. And he said, no, not okay. Write it down. And that's probably about when he introduced me to my ever-present memo pads. I have these everywhere that I go, including the bigger legal pad. Somebody asked me what device in your office is the most valuable, expecting me to say the XYZ program on my computer. The most valuable thing I have is memo pads attached to pens anywhere I'm likely to be. The bathroom, the bedroom, 2 or 3 places in the office where I go, the kitchen, the dining room, etc. So I can capture ideas and write down specifically what we're trying to achieve. Monetarily, we finally hit on, he said, well, how much money do you want to make? And I said, well, I'd like to make, and I already started acquiring some investments and so on. I said, what I'd like to do is make an extra above my current salary, above my incentive, an extra $1 million a year. And he said, how much is that a day? And I said, well, I don't know, but a year. He said, no, here's the problem with a year. In a year, you set a goal to make an extra $1 million. And 6 months into the year, you haven't made $500,000. So you discard the goal and reset the clock. And now we're talking about another year, and then another year, and another year. And I remember discussing with him, he said, you got to keep focused on it. And what it came down to was $2,739 and some odd cents a day, 7 days a week, extra, above and beyond anything I was making then. Well, that focuses the mind. At 2739, I should make it 2740, but 2739, I rounded it up to $2,800 a day. It's easier for me to figure, but if you make an extra 28, or even if you make 2,800 and that's it to start with, that's $1 million plus a year. But more importantly, it keeps it right in front of you. In other words, as we're recording this, it happens to be on a Tuesday, and in the United States on the West Coast, it's about 1:30 in the afternoon. And I pack it in at bedtime or shutdown time, where it becomes family time. I only have about 5 more hours in which, if I haven't already, to make $2,800 or make what's missing out of $2,800. It's not some ethereal goal 12 months away. It is today. And if any of you play golf, you know that a champion golfer plays not the shot he or she just made, that'll mess up your mind, and not the shot you're going to make after the one you're standing over. You only play the shot you're standing over. That's in your golfing life, that's all that exists. The ball at your feet, the club in your hand, and what you do with that. The fact that the last shot was magnificent is wonderful, but doesn't count now. The fact the next shot may be miserable, too bad, but it doesn't count for this shot or for the next one. So you keep your mind right on it. And I said all that to say this. My goal is to make $2,800 a day minimum. If I don't make it, today, let's say I don't make anything. I've had lots of days when I didn't. The averages caught up with me. So I didn't make $2,800. Tomorrow, and I'm talking US dollars, convert that to pounds or whatever your denomination is. If I don't make $2,800 today, do I have to make $5,600 tomorrow? No. Tomorrow, I try to make $2,800 a day. And conversely, and I've had some huge paydays. One was in the $14 million range, which would be 14 years of the goal we're talking about. When that happened, I was telling a friend of mine about it that night from the hotel where I was in Oslo, and I told him about the day, and he said, "Wow, you're done for the next 14 years. That is amazing." I said, "Well, thank you very much. Tomorrow, I have to make $2,800.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So doesn't make any difference what you did today or yesterday. What you're gonna do today should be 2,800. Tomorrow should be 2,800, and you don't get dragged down into negativity, because as soon as you're now trying to make whatever 2,800 times 3 is, and let's say you've had 3 questionable days in a row, the odds of you making the next 2,800 plus making up the deficit are slim and none. That's like the 6-month into the 1-year program where it doesn't look like it's doable anymore. So the goals, Dr. Hill and I agreed, after having a friendly argument over whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe it can achieve, we came down to have a reachable goal. It must be specific. It must be measurable, and it must be attainable. And people go, "Oh, that's opening up the back door and giving yourself room for excuses." No, it's not being crazy. That's the difference. If you're making $100 a week now, and you tell me you're going to be a millionaire by Saturday, unless there's something unusual going on in your life, let's just say that's not the case. You're just going to have to work harder to make the $1 million by Saturday. It's not going to happen. That's not attainable. It's delusion. So specific, I want to be rich is not specific. Measurable, I want to be rich is not measurable. And attainable, you have to be realistic, not negative, but realistic.
Okay, that leads us right to our next point.